Hello and welcome to the WMG Academy Apprenticeship Talks. Today we're delighted to invite back a past student who's going to talk about his apprenticeship journey. Hi Philip, thanks for joining us today.
Morning, not a problem at all.
So can you just introduce yourself to everyone and tell us when you left WMG and what you did here?
Yeah, so my name is Philip. I left WMG Academy back last year in 2020. I studied a double BTEC in engineering. I also studied computer science and maths at A-level.
What are you doing now? What company are you with?
So I'm currently doing a degree apprenticeship with the UK Atomic Energy Authority. So we are a research organisation, essentially. We study nuclear fusion and its related technologies. The company's aim is to deliver sustainable nuclear energy. Personally, for me, I'm based within the advanced computing group. As a whole, we're responsible for exploiting computational resources to enable solutions to challenging engineering problems. And personally, my role involves spending a lot of time developing software that allows us to model and simulate quite complex physics that might occur within a fusion reactor.
Oh, that sounds really interesting. So can you give me an example of what sort of things you might be modelling?
Yeah, so one of the projects I'm on at the moment is looking at, so it's associated with the jet reactor, which is the world's largest fusion reactor that we host down in Oxfordshire. It's part of the Eurofusion programme. And one of the things that we want to model is how hydrogen isotopes might behave within the reactor wall. So there are two isotopes of hydrogen that are quite crucial to reactor fueling, being deuterium and tritium, that are quite radioactive. So we want to make sure that when the reactor is dismantled and taken apart, we want to know what kind of radioactive waste we might be facing within the tiles of the reactor wall itself.
Oh, wow, that sounds really interesting. So that's your full-time job. And then in addition to that, you're studying for a degree as well. Can you tell us what degree you're doing and what university you're at?
So the degree title is Digital and Technology Solutions, and the degree is based at Warwick University.
Okay, so I believe that you're located in Oxford at the moment. I know you're working from home at the moment, but you will ultimately be located in Oxford. And you would have to commute back to University of Warwick to do your degree. Is that right?
Yeah. So for me, it's broken down into modules. So I finished my first module back in December and the early part of January. And that was some 2 weeks solid off work doing the degree. So had we been doing that in person, then I would have had a accommodation provided at the university by my company. They'd have paid for that, paid for the transport and everything, so that I could come back, do that 2 week module, and then I'd go back down to Oxfordshire to carry on working.
And what's the reality of working full time and doing a degree at the same time?
It's intense. It is the easiest way to sum it up. But I do thoroughly enjoy it. I absolutely recommend it because you can tie together everything that I'm studying on the degree course itself, the kind of software principles I'm learning about there, to directly relate to the things that I'm doing on a day-to-day basis for work. And in terms of the intensity, you know, I'm quite lucky in terms of the company I'm at and my line manager. So I'm always, you know, get asked, you know, have I got enough time to make sure I'm getting on with uni assignments? We have a 20% of the time is dedicated to off-the-job training. So that would be doing university work and university assignments. So yes, while the time at university itself can be kind of quite full on, there is a kind of a good balance between the time that I'm spending working and the time that I'm spending doing kind of the degree coursework itself.
So I know that when you were here, you applied for university as a backup and you were applying for apprenticeships at the same time. Are you glad that you went down the apprenticeship route?
I definitely am. I think I got an unconditional offer from Warwick University. So I could have gone to Warwick as just a regular degree student if I'd chosen to. But I think if I had to pick a few reasons for the apprenticeship route, being in a working environment is amazing. There are things that I'm learning that I just wouldn't have the opportunity to if I'd been doing a standard degree course. Being able to have an income each month is quite rewarding. I'm able to do all this work and get paid to do it. And I'll come out at the end of this without any student debt or anything. I think it's a major positive. And being around people, obviously, at the moment, it's not quite the same because of COVID and doing everything virtually. But being around people in a work environment is also quite beneficial for learning as well, because there's things that I'm learning from my colleagues at the moment that I think that's going to be quite useful for me going forward into my further career. Just knowing people that have done it before, people that are further ahead in their own careers than I am, getting an insight from them directly into the kind of things they work on, challenges they overcome on a day-to-day basis. I find that quite useful personally.
I'm thinking back to, when you were in year 13 and you were looking for apprenticeships, what websites were you using? Where did you find most of your opportunities, and how many did you apply for?
So there were the apprenticeships that are promoted internally within the academy. I also spent a lot of time looking on the government website at the gov.uk apprenticeships listings, which is actually where I found my current apprenticeship. I think I was considering 4 or 5 different ones. I actually applied to 3 in the end, being UKEA, Midlands Heart and JLR.
And what were the recruitment processes like? Can you talk us through the sort of steps that you had to do to to secure positions?
Yeah, so I'll pick a couple of different things. So when I applied to Midlands Heart, they set out a series of challenges, essentially, which was a kind of process to get through to be invited to interview. These include things like we had to pick a picture of brilliance and write a short paragraph describing it. We had to create if we didn't have one already, a LinkedIn profile and follow their LinkedIn pages. They also set us a challenge to learn a skill over a week and produce a video kind of demonstrating that new skill. For UKEA, I had to, the initial stage was send them a couple of paragraphs about why I wanted to be there, what I could bring to the organisation and what the organisation could give to me in return. Obviously, they understand that it's an apprenticeship scheme, so they expect to be giving back to us. And then from there, I was then invited to an interview with some of the people in my department and the apprentice scheme manager. Took me through some questions, and then from there, I got a call a couple of weeks later with a job offer.
Oh, that's fantastic. And do you have any tips for the recruitment process? Anything that you felt that you researched or any work that you did that was really helpful in your recruitment processes?
I think for me, an important one that I'd recommend to anybody wanting to do a degree apprenticeship is research the organisation you're applying to. Get to know where you want to end up with them. So if you're applying to JLR, for instance, do some research on their history and what you want to do within the organisation, and what kind of things they do related to your subject. For me, within UKEA, I looked at the kind of research they were doing, what their end goals are, the kind of projects that they're involved with. I also recommend doing some wider reading on whatever your kind of career subject is. So for me, my career path revolves around computer science. So I spent a lot of time doing wider reading into the computing field. And I guess also put yourself into your recruiter's shoes. So obviously recruiters get a lot of applications. UKAA had 300 or just over 300 applicants to the apprenticeship scheme. So the recruiter is going to have to, they're going to be looking for someone that stands out to them, somebody that they think that's the kind of person we want working here. So I guess when you're preparing for interviews or going through things like a series of challenges, think about what makes what you are presenting unique, and what makes you unique as an individual, and why the organisation should choose you over someone else that's applied.
And going on to being about standing out, do you feel like WMG Academy helped you stand out from the crowd?
Absolutely. I think the kind of having that hands-on industry experience throughout my kind of sixth form education made a massive difference to how I was then able to present in the interview process, and just in the general process around applying for apprenticeships. As well, kind of that during my time here, I kind of grabbed hold of a lot of projects that are available, things like the Royal Navy Challenge, and having the ability to talk about doing these extracurricular activities that were kind of above and beyond the standard curriculum stuff that kind of brought together skills and kind of a knowledge base. It was actually something that I talked about in my interview with UKAA, something that the interviewers were quite interested in. They wanted to know more about, so they asked me questions on. So I think anything kind of additional is good, and that really helped me with having those projects that I've been part of that I could talk about in my interview process.
Oh, that's really interesting. And then as the last question, do you have any advice that you would give to students who are considering apprenticeships at this moment in time?
I think the best advice I can give is ask questions. If there's anything that you want to know about about apprenticeships themselves in general, about apprenticeship roles, about the application process, the interview process, find somebody to ask it. Obviously, most people. So for me, I'm always available by email, and I'd be happy to answer questions that anyone's got. I think that's something that helped me when I was looking, was talking to people that I know that have kind of been through a similar thing, finding out what it was like for them. So I think, yeah, my number one advice would be ask questions.
Brilliant. Well, thank you for being part of the WMG Academy Apprenticeship Talks, and hopefully we'll hear again from you again in the future.
No worries.